Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Adventures of a Real Estate Investor. I'm Suzy.
And I'm Michael, and we're excited you joined us for this adventure.
Today's guest is Josi Heron.
Josie, thank you so much for being on the show with us today.
Oh my gosh, you guys, Michael, Suzy, this is such an honor, and I am so excited to be here with you.
Yeah, we're very excited as well. So just to let everybody know, so Michael and I met Josi about a year ago, almost now. We met her at the Veterans REI Live, and we just happened to be in all of the Q&A sessions together, which was great because we all learned together as well. But it has just been like so phenomenal to be able to stay connected this entire time and like watch your growth, right? Like I'm in a like women's mastermind with you, and we just see you in the space everywhere. And I mean, we obviously hope to do a deal with you one day, but it's like great to like be able to just stay connected this entire time. You know, like that conference really did bring us together, and we were very thankful for that.
Yeah, I mean, who knew? And actually, today is Veteran REI Live again. It's happening like right now. So I'm going to jump into that after here. But I know I was reflecting that this morning. It's been such a great journey. And when we first connected, I was like, wow, they seem awesome. You know, we've got a lot of similar backgrounds and goals. And to watch you guys grow and really grow exponentially this last year has been very validating for me because I'm on such a similar path, and it's been great knowing you and having you as well, both of you in some of the groups that I host as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so speaking of backgrounds, Josie, would you mind sharing with the audience a little bit about your background and why you started investing in real estate?
Yeah, sure. So I'll give you the quick summary of the background. I grew up as a military brat. My dad was in the Army. We moved around. I joined the Coast Guard. I went to the Coast Guard Academy and ended up, I wanted in some way to serve people. And so that was a big premise there. But ended up getting an engineering degree by default. That is kind of what you get when you go to the Coast Guard Academy. And it was great. I did 7 years active duty. I shifted to the reserves and then had several corporate positions, had a family in there. I've got 3 daughters, amazing husband, and we now have a COVID puppy, which before you get a COVID puppy, talk to me. But along the way, you know, I think everybody has their own story and their own path and their things that really impact them deeply. And I had several of those that led me to wanting to really branch out on my own and start learning about real estate investing. And I saw it as a path to really take ownership of my direction and to take all of these skill sets that I've learned, you know, through corporate America, through leadership in the military, which I still am, you know, an active drilling reservist, and finance and investing. And it has dovetailed all of those skills into this place where I feel like I have found it. I have arrived. I'm running my company. I'm growing, and it's awesome. So there's a little bit about myself, and I'm really excited to dive in.
That's awesome. So speaking of the company you created, it's called Waypoints Equity. And I want you to dive a little bit more deeper into specifically why you named it Waypoints. I think it has a really cool background.
Yeah, sure. So it kind of stemmed from maybe 4 epiphanies that I had that led me essentially to leave my corporate job and dive in full time. Some of them were very, you know, functional, where I learned about, I really for the first time recognized the value of passive income and the many different benefits of real estate, you know, including appreciation, equity, I guess, increase as you buy down mortgages and all of these other things, tax benefits. I also learned about, and that was an epiphany for me, I learned about big real estate, which is, you know, syndications, large multifamily, and how you can do that as a team and an investor. And, you know, those were some of the waypoints, but really what tipped me over, because I feel like it's maybe not common for someone who's on a career path, and I was on an executive career path at a Fortune 500 engineering company. I feel like it's not that common at that peak or moving into the peak of your career to just leave. Mm-hmm. And why I did, you know, the other waypoints were really personal. And I think a lot of people have things that happen to them, and it gives you those moments where you take stock and you're like, what am I doing? I've had 3 losses in my life that have been very close to me and very sudden and very, one of them especially very traumatic. And those moments, it took me maybe till the 3rd, unfortunately, to realize like I need to change my path. One of them was right before I started a huge project and led this project at work. And I dove in so far into my job that it started to, and I didn't deal with any of it. I didn't deal with the grief and, the trauma. And, but I just, I'm just going to power through and work, but it impacted my health. It impacted my relationships with my family. I was traveling way too much because I was just taking it all on. And I just remember there being one moment, but I was really successful in my job, but everything else was kind of like in shambles. And like, there was one moment where, top of the job, big presentation, everybody's really tense and stressed. And I realized 1, that I was burnt out. 2, I was not happy. And 3, if I put that much effort and energy into something I truly cared about, I could move mountains. And I was like, wow, it took me almost a full year after that to unwind and to figure out my next path. And I did it very intentionally. With real estate, I went through an accelerator. I started networking heavily. I hired a mentor. I dove in, all those things kind of before I took that jump. But that, that is where the waypoints came from, because I think so often we're all just focused on this great little, nest egg in the future, or like a vacation on the beach when you're retired, but it's now is when we need to live and we need to be present. And if we can't find that balance and that purpose now on the day-to-day, then I feel like there's something lacking. And for me, like having gone through that and having had loss and having had some epiphanies, like it makes me, I have a little bit of a trust issue with permanence of things. Like I don't really trust that anything is going to stay the same, for long. And so, I think that really kind of feeds into, the waypoints, which is why I'm trying now to make those choices, to live the life I want to take all of my skills and apply them towards something I'm passionate about, but to do it on my terms so I can be present for what's really important in life, which is the people, my husband, my 3 daughters who are amazing and growing and so supportive, and my mom and everybody else. So, yeah. So that's the story behind the name. Waypoints, really just marks those turning points. Everybody has them in their life, and, and what we do with that, because I think there's many times that I could have just curled up into a ball and, and just let it kind of consume me. And this is taking that and growing from it and making something good out of everything that, that I've dealt with, which I know people all have their own level of hardships, and to each person, that is the most, defining part. So I'm not trying to say, my life is amazing. I just have had some bumps.
Yeah, no, completely, right? Like we all have bumps, and that's totally understandable. Like the thing that I find amazing is that, like for most people, they would think that like how successful you were, like you were going towards the top and everything to be going in line and on what people think they want, like their corporate America job, right? They think that is stability. And what you are seeing in the background is that, yes, maybe like for a W-2, it could seem stable, but everything else behind you is not, right? But then even to add to that, like, what is stability truly, right? Because in a W-2, like 2 people like are in control of your end date, and that's either you or your employer. And like that 50-50 chance to me does not seem stable at all. And so like for you to express that, like when you are now taking control of like how you want to live your life, like to me, that is 100% stability. And like, I think that's a huge thing that people need to hear more of, right? That like, even though they're climbing this ladder, that really when you climb the ladder, like for yourself and it's only you, that's on it. I mean, yes, like for a syndication, you have a team and everything, but like when you're in control of your ladder, that's really when true stability occurs.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's empowering to take that step is also, terrifying because I mean, I come from, originally from military. I was, as a child, I was protected, by this military, organization. It was family, it was community. I've always worked on big teams. And then to take that step out, it's a leap of faith, maybe because what I've viewed in the past as stable is is changing, but I think I finally reached that point where I'm like, I have confidence in myself. Not only am I going to land on my feet, but I'm going to knock it out of the park,
Yeah.
And I had my job was amazing. I had a great team. I built the team. I was hired in by a visionary who I loved working for, but even then, he said, you can give everything to this job, but everybody is replaceable. And that was really humbling, and it kind of like hurt a little bit. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you can't replace me. But he's right.
Right.
And so it is what it is, but it's been a great journey, and I feel free, and I feel empowered, and I feel like I'm headed in the right direction, and I'm having success, and everything's good. Knock on wood.
No, that's great. What is like the biggest, I guess, difference that you see like between like the military, I guess, work lifestyle and then the real estate, like work lifestyle?
Or like corporate, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I would say, in corporate America or in the military, you have large groups of people working towards the same goal. And I think in real estate, you can create that, but it is me. At the end of the day, if something needs to get done, right now, I'm on the verge of hiring, like a virtual assistant, that type of thing. But if something needs to get done, it is me. I don't have backup. I can't delegate anymore. I'm used to delegating, and so that part's a little tricky. But I would say more than that, like just probably the positive is the direction and the ownership. I mean, I have strong work ethic. I work just as hard now, if not harder than I was before, but I get to choose what I'm working on, and I get to be intentional and know that everything I'm doing is absolutely in the going to benefit my family. Whereas, sometimes with work, and sometimes work is work, and that's okay, especially, if you're good at what you do and you enjoy it. But sometimes you're hitting the target for somebody else. You're hitting the target for a large corporation. And, I ran multi-million-dollar projects, contracts for this company, and I did a really good job. I brought in a lot of money for my company. My paycheck stayed the same, and that was okay. But then what I realized is, if there was a lull and I wasn't bringing in a big project, then they're like putting the pressure on. There was no like, oh, thank you for doing great. Like in general, I'm sure you're going to bring in another big project. It was like, hey, you need to find something to do. You now have a team, you got to feed them. And there wasn't, maybe, especially that's the corporate America side. There wasn't, the understanding that, we're going to continue to perform in amazing ways. We just need to adjust. So,
Yeah, I think like how you worded that as well, like even in like a corporate world, like you are going after and helping somebody else achieve their goals and like make their impacts. And like I love that, like with real estate investing, like we all get to choose like and go towards our goals and go towards our impact. Because I was even thinking about it before, like not a lot of employers even promote like personal development or growth, right? It's like, okay, during this 9 to 5, you are going to work. Like, but if you have another job outside of it, it cannot interfere with this. And it's like, okay, well, I mean, if I'm growing, then essentially you're also growing because like we just have a lot going on at the same time. But I know like the impact that you make like very much is within the veteran and like all the community organizations that you volunteer at. Can you expand a little bit on that?
oh yeah, sure. So obviously, I'm very partial to veterans, and we found some ways to give back in the community, that have been pretty awesome. Actually, at Veterans REI last year, they were raising funds and trying to get, folks to contribute for a tiny home in a veterans community that helps with veterans who are transitioning, from a hard place, from homelessness, or, needing some services. And so, we got involved, my husband and I got involved after that. This tiny home community is called Veterans Community Homes. And it was started in Kansas City. They've expanded now to a town that's just north of us. I live in Colorado, and there's a community that's about to break ground in Longmont.
Oh, nice.
And we went to the groundbreaking. It was amazing. The mayor was there, the founders, and one of them is a reservist, Navy reservist. And we had some connections through Stu Grazer from Storehouse, 310. So met all of those folks, went to the groundbreaking, and my husband and I decided that we were going to raise for a tiny home ourselves, so which is $35,000, and it seemed so huge, but we were already taking so many other big steps, and we did. And so with this, we reached out to our network, and part of that was we dedicated it to my dad, who is a lieutenant colonel, retired and now passed, and so that kind of tugs at everybody's heartstrings. So the family really showed up for that. But the cool part is, we're going to continue to be involved with this community. COVID slowed down the process a little bit, but we're getting groups of folks, and I'm going to organize some teams here of local vets I know, and real estate investors as well, not all of them, but most of them, to go and actually build the tiny home and to volunteer and to be there. And I'm so excited about that because it just is so tangible. It feels like you're doing something. And then there's volunteer opportunities after that. Then I'm gonna get my kids involved in, which, the community is gonna serve 26 veterans at a time. And they can stay there for, a period of, however many months it takes for them to really get on their feet. But the organization serves, thousands of veterans in the community who need help. It could be anything from, they lost their job and they need to make their car payment because they need a car, to get to work. And so, they'll step in with like that. But getting my kids involved with, packaging, low care packages and like hygiene packages for them. And so that it feels so good. Like that kind of thing I want to do more of, and I want to be hands-on and be in that community, for sure. I also do fundraising. I've always fundraised, but I do fundraising for a community group called Greenhouse Scholars, and they provide college opportunities, through scholarships and that type of thing for underprivileged students, in addition to mentorship opportunities. So if you have high performing, students who don't have the means or the support network to go to college, this organization helps them find that, find that path. But it doesn't just like dump them into college somewhere with no support. It connects them with like a host family and a community in the area that they can get some of that, kind of, it's not back office, but, background support for what they're trying to do, so they don't, kind of fall by the wayside or fall through the cracks. And that's really been an awesome organization as well.
Yeah, I love that. That's, Suzy and I's biggest thing is like, you can use real estate as a tool in order to create money. And then, everybody's like, oh, we can make a lot of money, but yeah, you use that money then as a tool again, right? In order to, give your time back. So then you can do awesome things like you just mentioned and make an impact, right? And that's what we like to focus on, and like how we can leverage real estate investing to make an impact. And that's great. Like, I actually want to follow up with you afterwards and learn more about how we can help with some of those projects, because that sounds awesome. We're going to be back in Colorado soon. So yeah, getting involved now and then carrying that through when we get back as well. That'd be awesome.
I do have one
definitely
to go off of that. Like, how did you decide to involve your children in the volunteering activities?
I think we've been looking for opportunities for them to volunteer for a long time. We've done some food pantry, like volunteering with our church, but it's so good for them. And they're at that age where they're starting to figure things out in this world, and they know that there's the haves and the have-nots, and they know that they are blessed. But I also want them to have a really good respect for, you know, for humanity and for the hardships, you know, that some people have. You know, so, and that really is it's more of, you know, how can we show them ways and develop those skills and that desire to help and to serve, and give back. You know, our oldest daughter just turned 14, which is crazy. It's gone so fast. And then our youngest is 9, and they get it, and they see, you know, we've gone up to the site, you know, for veteran community homes a number of times, and, you know, they ask questions, and, you know, it's one thing when you see a homeless person on the side of the road with a sign, and it's always awkward and nobody knows what to do,
Yeah.
you know, and then it's the conversation with the kids is how do we find a way to give back and help. And we've done other things with homeless organizations as well, you know, mostly just fundraising there. But I think it's so important, you know, I don't want my kids to take anything for granted, and I want them to be contributing members of society. So.
No, I really like that. Thank you so much for sharing. Because, like, for me personally, like, I look at the world in itself, like, as a miracle, right? Like, the fact that we have like trees for oxygen, the fact that we can have plants that grow, you know, like, all of that is a miracle. So, like, when you experience it, like, through volunteering, and when your children do as well, right? Like, everything just broadens. It's like, wow, like, there is so much more to just, like, my house, my school, my room. And I think that's like the biggest part of it, right? It's like experiencing like what everybody else like has to offer and what's happening to everybody else that isn't us. So thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing that.
Yeah, and the other quick thought there too is, as a child, I moved around a lot. And I think through that, I saw a lot of different life happening, a lot of different circumstances in different communities. And, you know, I also lived in different countries. You know, I lived in Germany for 5 years, and we traveled a lot. And I recognized, like, my kids don't have that. One of my main goals, and my husband as well, who also was in the Coast Guard, was to provide stability, to put down roots. And this is the longest I've ever lived anywhere. We've been here now 12 years. But that actually created a bubble for them. And I'm like, my kids, you know, need to get out, and they need to see these things and not just be in their little neighborhood bubble with their friends and going to school. So I think it's important to make those opportunities for them.
No,
So.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I know like another way, like you've made a pretty big impact, like with me is definitely through like the meetups that you've put up, you know, like I'm part of your women's meetup. Michael and I are both part of your military meetup. I mean, I join it just because I like it.
Absolutely.
So like, what made you want to start that? Because that's like pretty, I guess, brave within itself, right? For you to like take that lead and be the one being like, okay, this is when it is. This is who like I want to be there. Like, what made you want to go down that path?
Yeah, it really is community building. It stemmed from some of the networking, you know, these conferences, there's always networking afterwards. And I just recognized a couple of things. One, I've been a woman leader in military and mostly male dominated situations. And then also in the corporate engineering world, you know, mostly male situations. And I just thought it was a great opportunity to create a sounding board for women and the professional women. Because what I've noticed in a lot of these, I mean, pandemic Zoom meetings is kind of what we've been living with, but they're not always the ones that are rising to the top, you know, and I do it too. I sit back and I listen and I absorb and I process, and then maybe I'll have like one good little zinger of a comment, you know, and then I'm good, you know, but I felt that need, and I thought it would be kind of cool. And it really has evolved, the women's group, I'll talk about the military in a minute, to a core group. There's a core group of very motivated women that get together, and it's a mastermind, and I do it for free because for me, it's validating, and I learn something every time. And the coolest part is seeing the interactions between everybody else, and everybody else helping each other or providing value and adding value and really bringing their best game, you know, throughout. And I think, yeah, I do have some guilt because I schedule them when it's convenient for me. I make it a priority to be there, but that's the way it's going to work. And so that has worked. And then the military piece has been phenomenal as well, and that's growing. I went through an accelerator with an organization called White Feather, and White Feather Investments focuses on military members who want to get into real estate investing, and they focus on single family homes, but you learn all of the underwriting and market analysis and tax and legal, and that was amazing. From that, I started the military group with a couple folks who had graduated, because I recognized there were people, and when I went in through that program, I went in with the lens that I wanted to do big multifamily, but I also wanted to learn all of the steps to get there. And there's other people like me who went through that, and now I'm finding many other military members who are interested in multifamily. And I think too, it's a community, and I've learned enough in business and marketing that when you find a good niche and you niche down even one more level, it really works. And so the trust and the community and just kind of the bonds that are there, they're real. And I'm seeing deals happen in the military group now that I never imagined would happen, but we've got folks that are partnering or people that are helping, and I've partnered with some people, and then I've seen those partners go off and do big things, and it's really awesome. And my last thought there is, that same leader that I mentioned, who was visionary at my company, he told me that the best thing that you can do is, one, work to be the best you can and to be an expert, but to share freely with other people, because that is how everyone grows, and everyone grows together. And this is such a team sport. Multifamily, you need good people, and you need them on your side, and you need to know where they're coming from. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to foster with those groups.
Yeah, absolutely. I love your meetup, the military meetup, and I love meeting all the people in there. So yeah, I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and it's cool how collaborative we are, right? Like being able to bounce ideas off each other is like one of the greatest parts. Like even like you said, like it is like very team based, but when everybody is in a space where they feel safe to share, like that's awesome, right? Like because there's so many different ways to go about real estate investing, like business plans and what you can do for the families inside the assets, and like being able to hear everybody's stories. It's like, oh wow, I didn't think of that. Like that can fit in mine. Like that's definitely one of my favorite parts of it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
So fortunately, we're getting to the end of the show. But before we end the show, it brings us to the Adventurous 4. These are the 4 questions we ask everybody, every guest that's on the show. So the first question is, where is one place you wish to travel and why?
Sure. So I have many. I have a huge list, but the one that seems most unattainable right now, I guess, is New Zealand. I've always wanted to go to New Zealand. My sister and I right when I left active duty, we had a trip planned, and we were going to go and do this like week-long bicycle trip through New Zealand, and
Awesome.
Circumstances changed and we never did it. But, I had like the Lonely Planet New Zealand book. I still have it. It's a little old now, but yeah, I've never been to that part of the world and would love to go. My second is Portugal. We'll talk about that next time.
That's super cool. Yeah, no, both places are definitely places we want to go as well.
Yeah.
So then what is one thing that's on your bucket list, and how are you leveraging real estate investing to achieve it?
Yeah, it's travel, international travel, to be honest. I think your first question maybe opened that up, but I used to travel a lot, especially when, I was living in Europe, when my dad was in the Army and I was in high school, and I miss it. So I think the leveraging the real estate part, we didn't dive too deep into that, but, it's creating a path and passive income and active income. It's work, that being on the general partner side, but it's creating that passive income so that I'll have income freedom as well as time freedom, so that I can take trips that feel more like a vacation, than what we've done in the recent years, which is we're squeezing in something and we're trying to maximize the fun on a weekend,
Yeah.
So I want to travel internationally, probably places with beaches. I live in the mountains, so I need a little bit more of that.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. So the next question is, what is one piece of advice for someone who wants to start passively investing in real estate?
Yeah, I would say look internal first. Set some goals, some basic goals of where you want to go. Figure out what your why is, figure out, what it is going to take to get you to your goals. If it's just, you're working a great job and you want to start slowly building, real estate income on the side, then kind of define that. If you're interested in multifamily, there's two ways to invest in multifamily. One is as a limited partner where you invest passively. I would say, start connecting with operators who are doing that, and also recognize that there are a lot of deals out there. Take the time to kind of not rush in, but learn what this space is, ask questions, and then make your own, criteria and kind of decisions. And then if you think down the line you want to be a general partner and actually run and lead these deals, I would say definitely start as a limited partner and just, soak it up and pay attention to how the operators are working.
Yeah, absolutely. Like asking questions is definitely like very key to all of that. So thank you for that. And then for our final question, if you had unlimited resources available to you, how would you leave an impact?
Yeah, I think I would want to do something similar to what I'm participating in with Veteran Community Project, where I'm either creating a community or a support system that's helping either veterans or folks who might be struggling. I've had family members with really severe mental health issues, and I don't know how to crack that one, but I think deep down it's always something I'm thought about, like how do you even begin to address this? And I think it is, it's back to service and touch. And so if I had unlimited resources, I think I would really dive into what would be the most impactful to people who are having a hard time in their lives.
Yeah.
No, yeah, thank you so much. It's actually really beautiful. So thanks for that. So then before we end the show, can you please share with our listeners the best way that they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, of course. So I have a website, Waypoints with an S, because we all have many waypoints, waypointsequity.com. And then my email address is best. It's Josi at Waypoints Equity, and Josi is Josi at waypointsequity.com. And I would say if you're interested in being part of our mastermind, our women's group, or our military group, if you don't fall into those categories, feel free to reach out to me anyways. I love talking to folks, to understanding your goals, and seeing if there's any way that I can add value on your journey as well.
No, yeah, thank you for that. And we will definitely add that to the show notes.
For sure. Well, Josi, it was such a great conversation. Sad that it's ending, but I'm excited that we're still friends afterwards. So I'm looking forward to continuing to get to know you better. Like you mentioned at the beginning, we are on a very similar trajectory, and I know you're out there crushing it. And I'm really excited to see you grow. And yeah, great. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It was great, that you shared everything with us. So thank you so much.
Yeah, Michael, thank you. Suzy, thank you so much. I am so excited to see you guys launch your podcast. I'm going to blast it out there to the world. And not just because I'm on it, but thank you. No, it's so inspirational what you're doing and how you're growing and how you're working together, to really make a difference. And the themes with passion and impact as well. I mean, that's why we're here. That's why we're doing this, is because there's some driving force with all of us to make something better. And yeah, I'm excited for what you guys have in the future. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Josi.